Hello. Welcome everyone to this conversation on Strong at Home. We're here to inform, inspire, and encourage you in your walk, wherever you are and whatever you're doing today. And I'm Dr. Brenda Murphy, and I'm an educational psychologist with Sail Away Learning and Academy. And we are so privileged to have with us today Brandon Sullivan. Hello, Brandon. How are you again today? It's so good to have you.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Murphy. I am doing wonderfully. I'm just having a great day, great week.
Well, that's wonderful to hear, because when we talked in May, things were not quite that upbeat. It seems to me that when we were chatting there, it was kind of hesitant. Things were not quite settled, and you weren't quite sure what was going on. So,
Absolutely.
what's happened since then? And catch us up from May and where you are now, and tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and where you are and where you're teaching now.
All right, sounds great. Yes, so I am still teaching at a private school in North Knoxville. I teach second grade, which in my opinion is the best grade. Yeah, I love second grade. I love that time of learning and that growth that happens then. So in May when we talked, it was that real kind of moment of tension in education where people just didn't know what to do. Teachers were kind of felt like their hands were tied behind their back. They were, almost like the Israelites being asked to make bricks without straw. It's like, oh my goodness, how do we educate our students without all the resources that we had? So I'm so blessed at the school I'm at. We just had an amazing administration, and they just gave us wings to kind of fly, and we went virtual for the remaining part of the year. So for the last part of that from I think about March until May, we went virtual. Over the summer, they reassessed, they followed the CDC guidelines, and then we opened in person with a very clear goal is the safety of the students and giving an in-person education. So we were able to make sure that we keep each class sort of separate as its own individual unit. Almost, you think about like each class and each grade is like a family unit. And so that class kind of works with itself and stays separate from the others so that they don't risk exposure, but just taking precautions. And we've had an amazing 9 weeks. So we went 9 weeks, and there have been no COVID cases in our school. So we're very grateful. We know that it's nothing that we've done. It's that we're certainly not immune. That doesn't mean we'll never have a COVID case. But it was just wonderful and a joy to be able to be with the students and see them grow and interact with one another again.
Do you think that this period of not being in school and then being in school, how did it seem to affect? Of course, second graders are still young and they're somewhat resilient, but I think that we don't always recognize what's going on with these young kids.
Absolutely. One of the things that I noticed sort of observing other classes and even somewhat in my own class is just this deep need for the students to have interactions with one another. And it was just really special, even when we were doing virtual learning, which is an amazing tool. I think it's, a fantastic gift. Just the joy that they saw when they were able to interact with each other, and then the joy that they had when they came back and were able to be back in the classroom and learning and just doing normal routines. That was much more special than it's ever been before. So I think a lot of the kids were just really hungering, and I think even adults, I know myself, having done a lot of Zoom meetings and being, socially distanced from everyone, there's a hunger for that interaction and that community that was kind of put on hold for a bit, and even now has to be carefully, monitored just to make sure that we're being as careful as we can possibly be.
Now, in your classroom, are you wearing masks all the time, all day long? Are you and your children wearing masks? Is that the protocol in your school?
Yeah, so masks are encouraged. They're not required. I wear a mask just that way I can just make sure that I am, being as safe as I can with the kids. Some of the kids will wear a mask. We don't wear masks when we're outside playing. When we're in the hall, if we're walking to and from a place, if we're, in a place that has a lot more circulated air from other
Yeah.
people. We'll put our masks on just to be extra safe. Some parents, want their students to wear masks. Some parents are not as concerned about that. So we really leave that up to the parents as the ones who can decide what's best for their children. But we keep the desks in my classroom. It's really neatly set up, if I do say so myself.
I'm sure it is.
It's decorated like Alice in Wonderland, and I figured, that was a great theme for this year. We're tumbling down the rabbit hole, and we don't know what to expect, but it'll be an adventure. So the tables are set up spaced out so that the students are able to have some distance if they need. But at the end of the day, we have hand sanitizer, we've got our mask, we wash our hands, we say our prayers, and we just leave the rest to God.
Yeah, that's all you can do. And do the kids at that age, they still like to touch a lot? They're huggy, feely, touchy kind of thing. The little girls, little boys, we want to hold hands, or we want to touch or put our arms. Are they allowed to do that, or are we trying to keep them away?
We are trying to keep them away. We're trying to keep that kind of close proximity to a minimum, especially going into cold and flu season, which is just good practice regardless. I think I think this is taught. If it's taught us nothing else, it's taught us that maybe we haven't been washing our hands as much as we should have. But, we just try to keep them. They're not putting their hands on each other. They have their own pencils and erasers and things, so they don't share things. But like you said, they're kids, and kids play, and so they're able to play outdoor games with each other, kickball, baseball. We play this game called Gaga Ball, which was invented in Israel. It's Israeli dodgeball. It's in this sort of ring that they have, and they try to bounce it off each other and get each other out. So there's a lot of fun activities that they can play outside and interact with each other. So there's certainly the educational experience is not, I feel, impeded in any way.
And maybe in some ways it's just learning a different way of doing things. And especially when you're in second grade, you're very changeable things. You're open most of the time to change. I'm sure you have a few that are always, they want it the same way every day, but that's what we have to deal with anyway. So in coming back after being out for the spring and the summer, did you notice any apprehension in the children, any changes in them that you hadn't seen before, or they just come back like normal second grade kids?
Well, that's a really great question, Brenda. I think it was individual, like for each individual student. I could sense just an overall, maybe not anxiety, but just a little nervousness just from people around. At the first few, I'd say about the first 2 weeks, families were kind of just holding their breaths and like, what's going to happen? Are we going to end up having people sick all the time? But after that, things kind of really fell into place very, very easily. Now, most of, I think, what teachers that I've been talking to now we're focused on we've just learned how to protocol of keeping things sanitized and safe. That's just kind of almost second nature by now. Now we're just focused on making sure that the students are learning and doing their reading assessments and, just focused in on the educational aspect of it. So yeah, the students really, are, like you said, they're so resilient at that age that they're able just to adapt to so many different things. And they've adapted beautifully to this new, protocol that we're under.
Yeah. Do you ever hear them talking about life being different among themselves? They often, if we sit back and just take time to listen to children's conversations, we find out some amazing things. Have there been any particular times that you found out things about your children or what this period has done for them just in their interpersonal conversations?
Yeah, there are times when we're outside playing that I'll hear conversations. A student will mention the coronavirus. There's a book, if I'm not mistaken, it's from Diary of a Wimpy Kid, where there's a kid that gets the cheese touch. The piece of cheese, and then he touches somebody else, and so the kids sometimes play a game called cheese touch, where it's like if you touch somebody, they have the cheese touch. And I heard some students adapting that to the corona touch. But they work out their feelings through play and through these types of things. I've noticed a lot more awareness of sickness. Like the students for our prayer requests, I teach at a Christian school, so every day we take prayer requests. And this year, sickness has come up a lot more for their prayer requests. They'll ask for their grandparents. They'll say, pray for my grandparents that they don't get COVID-19, pray for our class that we don't get sick. So it's certainly something that has had an impact on them, an impact on their way of thinking. But as I said, they're able to kind of adjust to that, and we have a very open classroom to talk about what our feelings are, what we're afraid of. We've had some writing assignments that the kids get to explore what they're afraid of, how they can be brave in the midst of that fear.
So how are you dealing with that? I think fear is a big topic, not just for children, but for adults. So in your classroom, maybe even helping individuals deal with those fears, what are some of the things, as setting a foundation of how do you deal with fear in, as you can, a positive way? What are some of the things that have come up and that you have shared out of your wisdom as a teacher?
Well, that I think is one of the most important things a teacher can do, is to set an environment of calm, of resilience and bravery. And bravery, I teach my students, does not mean that you don't feel afraid, but it means that you stand firm in the midst of your fear. So some of the things that we do at my school is that we really focus in on who we are in Christ and who we are in God. And so we have a Bible verse from Joshua, and in it God says, "Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous?" And so that's kind of a theme that our class is really adopted, is saying, you know what, when we face our fears, we're going to stand strong, because we know that we don't have the power to change these things, but we're going to trust that there's someone who loves us and who cares for us. So I think that love is really the thing that is the antidote to fear. That's the thing that happens. And so the students, every day, that they know that they're loved, that they're cared for, that they can express whatever emotions or feelings that they need to throughout the day. And it really creates an environment where they can share and encourage each other. And I have just such a sweet group of second graders that they really love one another well, and that's, second graders are often, no, I'm thinking about themselves. But if a student is feeling sad, their friends will say words of encouragement and really try to build them up. So that's just an awesome dynamic that I have with this group.
And really at the heart of it, what you said at the very beginning of explaining that to us, is that really letting an individual know that they're loved and accepted is one of the most important things that you can give anyone in an education at all. Mm-hmm. At Sail Away, our name is an acronym for Serve All in Love. And it is certainly this love that we're bringing, and certainly during these days, to know that they are loved and accepted, and that there is nothing to fear, that we know that it's there, but to be brave. I love that idea, to be brave in the face of adversity and of scary things, that we can overcome whatever is facing us. So in addition to some of those verses biblically, how maybe as your theme this year of Alice in Wonderland, working into dealing with this particular time in our history?
Yeah, so Alice in Wonderland, I think it's absolutely my favorite children's literature of all time. Well, it's either that and then The Wind in the Willows, but those are, it's hard to
They're very different.
But to me, children's literature I take it very seriously, because, I take education and children very seriously. But to me, it's such an amazing thing, because it's about self-exploration. It's about growing and understanding your place in the world, your place in a strange world. And so the way that theme kind of works its way out is that we kind of use it almost like an allegory. We'll read a chapter, we'll read something about how Alice was experiencing something strange, and she didn't understand who she was this day. And it really kind of fits very well with what we're going through. Is like, all right, we knew who we were yesterday, and that the world was the way that it had always been. And now it's upside down, topsy-turvy. We've got these cloth masks on our face. We're talking about socially distancing. We're all these things are very strange. And so it really fits and sort of dovetails nicely into our theme. And it's also just very whimsical. It doesn't take itself overly seriously. And so that's another thing that we do in the class. My class is always laughing. We're just always cutting up and enjoying a good laugh. And so I think that also helps to brighten the mood. Laughter is a merry heart does good like a medicine.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's a great place for us to end. Brandon, what a gift you are to your students and to all of us for sharing how you approach teaching and learning, and especially during this time. And we're going to end our conversation today the way we always do here on Strong at Home. May the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Brandon, thank you. We'll look forward to maybe checking in with you later in the year. I'd love to hear more. Maybe you can give us a little tour of what your classroom looks like as Alice in Wonderland. We would love to see that. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.
And you as well.
Bye-bye.